What's up guys, Matt back again, and this is the Ichiban Kuji Dragon Ball vs. Omnibus, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing the entire set. Before we dive into the video, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell, like the video, comment your thoughts down below for us to discuss, follow me on my socials, and consider becoming a YouTube member to enter into our monthly giveaways and Discord server so our community can help you on your Dragon Ball figure collecting journey. This Kuji opens up with a figure that I find is incredibly underrated in the Masterly's collecting world, Ultra Instinct Goku. UI Goku has received many figures within and outside of Masterly's, but this is, in my opinion, the best scaled UI Goku in Masterly's. I believe he's based on Dokkan art, but I'm not quite sure. If you feel there's a better reference, let me know down in the comments. Goku's likeness is perfect. I think people find his face jarring, but I'm not sure what the issue is. Perhaps some think his teeth are too large, but I respectfully disagree. I think the details of his glaring eyes, enraged scream, and scrunched up nose with epic details on his face make him look great. I'm tired of seeing only stoic UI Goku figures, so it's nice to change it up and show a little emotion with him. The sculpt is also fantastic, but I believe the legs were reusing the lower body sculpt from the Ultimate Variation Kuji. That's not a big deal to me since it's just the lower body. His muscles are extremely well detailed on his upper body, and I think they absolutely nailed the design and texturing of his hair. The paint and shading on this figure are out of this world too. I love the metallic paint finish for UI Goku figures, and I think it really does make it stand out and look special compared to his other forms within figures. It feels like it captures that godly glow of his. There's tons of shading on his skin that is very visible in between his muscles and on his pants and boots. The size of the figure is really well scaled too. He's not super tall, but scales perfectly with other Goku figures, and of course Jiren within this set too. This isn't my favorite UI Goku figure overall, but he's definitely my favorite and preference for scaled UI Goku figures. I think people should really give him a proper chance, get him in person, and just realize how amazing he really is. Universe 11's most powerful warrior, the man who is even stronger than his god of destruction, the powerhouse of justice, Jiren. Jiren made a huge splash when introduced to Dragon Ball Super. Fans were skeptical of his character as he didn't seem to have much depth at first, but we then learned that his ideals, while righteous, were almost in direct adversity to Son Goku's way of living and fighting. The man had no trust in his friends. Jiren was built up for the entire Tournament of Power, and we got to see how epic he was. His full power form is our only Masterlies of him and the only one of Jiren in general. I don't think Jiren gets a lot of merch in general, which is somewhat disappointing. Jiren is also a huge figure because he's actually a Masterlies Extra. Masterlies Extra are larger scaled Masterlies figures for characters who are canonically bigger than your average Dragon Ball character. The figure seems based on full power Jiren's render from Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, and of course, his likeness is amazing. There are so many details in his eyes alone, but I love the veins around his head, the line work around his eyes, and his gritting teeth. He looks arguably better than the source that he's based on. Jiren's sculpt is also wonderfully crafted from top to bottom. His huge, bulging muscles are highly detailed, his uniform has been torn to the waist, and the texturing on his boots and gloves are well done. He's a pretty heavy figure too, it just feels like a high quality product in person. The paint isn't necessarily super bright on the figure, but make no mistake that it's very well done. You can see shading all over the figure that highlights and adds depth to his skin and the singes of his uniform. Jiren is one of the biggest figures in this Kuji, full of large figures thanks to his Masterly's extra size. He scales really well with the characters like Goku, and exactly what I expected with a max-powered Jiren figure. This figure is just so remarkable, and during a time where we never received Dragon Ball Super Masterly's figures, it just makes him feel that much more special. Gogeta is likely the most popular fusion of all time. This iconic warrior gained a ton of popularity after appearing in the non-canon Fusion Reborn film and exploded in his likability yet again after joining the core story in Dragon Ball Super Broly. Gogeta had already received a couple of Masterly's and Masterly's Extra of his blue and base forms, but this was the very first Super Saiyan form that we got. It's actually the only regular Super Saiyan Gogeta we've gotten in Masterly's, which is pretty shocking to me. And I'm talking about Dragon Ball Super, not Z Gogeta. The figure is a recycle and color swap of the Gogeta Blue from Ultimate Variations Ichiban Kuji, which is based on Gogeta's fighting pose before engaging with Broly at the beginning of their fight. His likeness is great. Gogeta definitely has a playful attitude during his fight with Broly, mostly because of how much stronger he is, and the figure reflects that perfectly. The hair sculpt is really well done and has plenty of texturing with a good shape to it. There is lots of texturing all throughout the sculpt too, with good details on his muscles, pants, belt sash, and even his jacket. I also love how his jacket is flowing back in the wind from his attacks. The figure has great paint and shading throughout it with a very unique color to it. His jacket, eyes, and hair have a glossy finish to them with some hints of it also throughout the figure. It may be a polarizing choice for some collectors, but I think when we're in a world full of Gogeta figures, it's nice to see something so different and refreshing. The figure also scales well with other Masterly's figures and takes up quite a bit of space with his wide stance. I'm really glad I revisited this Gogeta figure all these years later as a collector. He looks really unique and has an awesome glow to it every time I gawk at it on my shelf. Back in 2020, Broly was hot on the market. He arguably always was and always will be, but he was showing up everywhere in Ichiban Kuji. The Broly movie was a huge hit just 2 years earlier, and its impact on the future of Dragon Ball Super is still felt to this day. This figure is also a King Cluster figure, which is a subset of Masterly's full of large figures almost all based on Broly. They're extremely popular releases that are truly something to behold in person. With all of that being said, this was also our third, technically fourth, King Cluster Broly figure released within just a year. I'm sure a lot of collectors were starting to bemoan another Broly figure. I understand it gives a chance for those who may have missed the first few releases to buy him, but this set didn't have an Ichibancho release, and it's just an unexciting option for collectors who may have already gotten one or both of the first few. Outside of that glaring issue, the overall quality of the Broly figure is pretty sweet. His likeness is perfect. He has a very angry and serious look to him that was also reflected in the Ultimate Variation Kuji. The head and majority of his body sculpt have been largely recycled from the Ultimate Variation, actually. The overall details are great, but the only difference here between both of those figures is his raised hand seemingly charging up a ki blast. I personally don't think that it's a very fitting pose for him in this form, as he comes off as less of a sadistic ruler and more like a hulking monster in the movie. What's unique about this Broly figure is that he's painted just like the Gogeta within this set. His hair, Ba's ear, pants, and boots all have that glossy tint to them that makes him look a bit different from any other Broly. He also has a much paler complexion, which might be a little polarizing to some collectors. Like any King Cluster Broly, this figure is massive and scales well with other Masterly's figures. He's pretty cool in most ways, and while he may not be my favorite King Cluster or Broly figure, he's still an interesting take for a figure that we've seen many times at this point. Saiyan 3 is my all-time favorite form in Dragon Ball. I love how different it looks to the other Super Saiyan forms with its long hair and lack of eyebrows. The entire transformation sequence of Goku revealing it for the first time against Majin Buu is one of my favorites that I constantly watched over and over as a kid. This has also been our first and only Master Leads of Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which just feels wrong to me. I would never say no to more SSJ3 Gokus, Bandai. The figure seems based on the first reveal of the form from the manga and anime, even though it's not completely one-to-one. Goku's missing the halo and one of his arms is positioned differently. This also feels like he should be from his fight with Kid Buu since he's in this set, but I'm not so sure. If there's a more accurate source out there, let me know in the comments. Goku's likeness is perfect. I love the details around his face and how piercing his eyes look. The hair sculpt behind this thing is immaculate. It's riddled with details and is long and awesome. The figure does come with a support for his hair, but I've never found it that necessary. The sculpt seems very well made with good weight distribution, texturing along the gi, and attention to detail. I do believe they reused the sculpt of the Kokoni Kiwamariri body in order to create this one, but that's not a big deal since the rest of the sculpt is new and unique. I absolutely love the paint and shading of this figure too. The way his oranges and blues mix just right with the colors that they chose and the literal perfect mixtures of yellows and whites in his hair make him one of my favorite Goku figures in my entire collection. Of course, he scales perfectly with Master Lee's figures too. Of course, he scales perfectly with other Master Lee's figures too. I have no words for just how amazing this Goku is, besides the ones that I just said. Many people will say that the Grandista is the best of the best, but I'd argue that this Goku has far more detail and feels closer to the art style of the anime and manga. Not only that, he's able to scale with an entire collection of Master Lee's figures and characters. I highly recommend him and personally believe he's the best figure in the set. Majin Buu was the fiercest being Goku had ever fought for quite some time in the story. He's still a pretty powerful and dangerous opponent to this day. It was also until only recently that he started getting more figures within Bandai's portfolio of releases, but this was our first ever Master Leads of any of Buu's forms. Kid Buu's figure is based on an iconic pose he does in the anime that has been replicated across many forms of Dragon Ball media. His likeness is fantastic. I love seeing all of the line work done on his face, his snarling smile, and his menacing eyes. Buu has also been fantastically sculpted, but some may notice a deviation on the sides of his head. It's not super noticeable, but something I wanted to point out. If you're sensitive to that stuff, I can understand, but since it's pretty minimal, I tend to ignore it. All of Buu's holes have been sculpted in across his body, his tentacle has been well made, his muscles are really well sculpted, and the texturing on his skin and pants are awesome. The figure has great uses of paint with bright pinks and loads of shading on his skin and pants, going with mixtures of whites, pinks, and grays. They also painted his gold parts on his pants and bracelets with glossy metallic paint. Buu is a perfect size in Master Lee's as he scales with many other figures. This Buu was my favorite figure of him for the longest time until Fat Buu came along, but he still remains the best Kid Buu figure you can get to this day. I know he's extremely expensive, but due to Buu's rarity in the figure market and how great this one in particular is, I'm glad I picked him up. Our last one prize is something truly special, as Bandai chose to give us an Oozaru Vegeta. Vegeta's Oozaru form was menacing and destructive as he fought Goku with it. It completely made the gap between both fighters too wide, and the situation seemed pretty bleak for Earth's defenders. And even nowadays, Oozaru Vegeta is bullying people in video games like Sparking Zero. Vegeta seems based on one of his panels during his transformation sequence in the manga. The details on this figure are pretty insane. Vegeta's likeness is superb. I will say that it may seem like his head sculpt is reusing the Greatest Saiyan Golden Oozarus, but I think there are some slight differences to prove that idea wrong. Vegeta has awesome details in his snarling mouth and glowing red eyes. You can even see all of the texturing and wrinkles on his face. His fur is also really well detailed with tons of texturing. In fact, his entire body has some sort of texturing, which gives the figure a feel of realism. There is so much to appreciate as you look through the body of the figure, like the various points of battle damage on his armor. This Vegeta also has articulating feet for some reason too. I'm not sure why they did that, but it's pretty cool to see. The paint and shading are also well done here. He's got shading from top to bottom that's mostly seen in his armor, fur, boots, and gloves. Vegeta's side is pretty massive as a figure, but I understand that he's technically not as big as he was in the anime. As I've mentioned in the past, that's a bit unrealistic for Oozaru figures, but he's huge, and I think that's all that really matters to us collectors. This Vegeta figure is amazing, and clearly the most unique one that we have. It's awesome that Bandai included him in this Kuji as a last one prize, and he looks perfect on a Saiyan Saga shelf. He's a huge holy grail that costs a ton, so make sure to avoid any too good to be true prices, as those are likely bootlegs. He's amazing, and I highly recommend him. So those are my thoughts on Ichiban Kuji, Dragon Ball vs. Omnibus, the very first Omnibus Kuji. I think this is, here comes the meme, one of the greatest Ichiban Kuji of all time. The characters are varied, the characters are awesome, the figures are awesome. It's a must-have set from start to finish. But those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you made it this far in the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you want to support us even further beyond, consider becoming a YouTube member starting at $3. That gives you access to our growing Discord community full of awesome collectors like you. We do buy, sell, trade, we do watch parties, we play games, we shoot the breeze, all that great stuff. And if you want to take part in our monthly giveaway, where we're giving away one Crane figure or a group of Crane figures, one Ichiban Kuji figure, or an entire Ichiban Kuji set to our $10, $15, and $20 members, you can take part in that. But I think that's all I got for you guys today. So until the next video, guys, I will see you all later.